Welcome back, dear listeners, to another episode of Within and Without, A Path to Mindful Living. I'm Arya Alina, and as always, I'm honored to have you with us as we continue exploring the profound teachings of the Bhagavad Gita and their relevance to our modern lives. Last time, we dove into Chapter 13, The Field and the Knower of the Field, where Krishna taught us to distinguish between the impermanent aspects of life, the field, and the eternal self, the knower. Together with Rayan, we reflected on how this understanding can bring clarity, detachment, and peace to our daily lives. Today, we move into Chapter 14, Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, or the Yoga of the Three Gunas. This chapter introduces us to the concept of the three gunas, the qualities of nature that influence our behavior, thoughts, and spiritual growth. Krishna explains that by understanding and transcending these qualities, we can rise above their influence and connect with our higher self. Joining me, as always, is my thoughtful co-host, Rayan Wells. Rayan, I find Chapter 14 fascinating because it's both philosophical and incredibly practical. Understanding the gunas feels like a roadmap for navigating life's challenges with balance and awareness. What's your take on this chapter?
Thanks, Arya. I completely agree that this chapter is practical, but I also think it can feel overwhelming. The idea that our behavior is constantly influenced by these unseen forces, the gunas, might make some people feel like they're not truly in control of their actions. While Krishna's teachings on transcending the gunas are inspiring, I think they can be challenging to apply in daily life.
That's an interesting point, Rayan, and one I'm sure many listeners can relate to. But I'd argue that understanding the gunas gives us more control, not less. When we recognize which quality is influencing us, whether it's Sattva, harmony, Rajas, activity, or Tamas, inertia, we can make conscious choices to shift our mindset and behavior.
I see your point, Arya, but I still think there's a fine line between awareness and overthinking. If we constantly try to analyze which guna is at play, we might lose sight of simply living in the moment. That's where I think Krishna's teaching to transcend the gunas becomes so important. It's not about getting stuck in the analysis, but rising above these qualities altogether.
Fair enough, Rayan. And that's what makes this chapter so rich. It's not just about recognizing the gunas, but learning to transcend them. As we explore Krishna's teachings today, we'll dive into what the gunas are, how they influence us, and how we can rise above their hold to live with greater freedom and clarity. Before we dive in, a quick reminder. If you've been enjoying this series, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Within and Without, A Path to Mindful Living. Subscribing helps you stay connected to future episodes and supports our growing community of seekers. Now, let's embark on this journey through Chapter 14. Rayan, are you ready?
Absolutely, Arya. Let's dive in and unravel the mystery of the gunas.
Let's start with the basics, Rayan. Krishna describes the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, as qualities that arise from nature, or Prakriti. These qualities are present in everything and influence our thoughts, actions, and tendencies. Shall we break down what each guna represents?
Of course, Arya. Sattva is the quality of harmony, wisdom, and light. It's associated with purity, balance, and clarity. When Sattva is dominant, we feel calm, compassionate, and spiritually aligned. It's the quality most conducive to spiritual growth.
Exactly. And Rajas is the quality of activity, desire, and restlessness. It drives ambition and effort, but can also lead to attachment and anxiety. Rajas is like fire. It can be energizing, but if unchecked, it can burn out control.
And then there's Tamas, which is the quality of darkness, ignorance, and inertia. It's associated with lethargy, confusion, and stagnation. While Tamas might seem negative, it has its place. Rest and stillness are essential for renewal. The challenge is ensuring Tamas doesn't dominate our lives.
Well said, Rayan. And Krishna explains that these gunas are constantly in flux, influencing our behavior and mindset. Recognizing which guna is dominant helps us understand ourselves better. But I'd argue that it's not enough to simply recognize the gunas. We have to take steps to cultivate Sattva and minimize the influence of Rajas and Tamas. What do you think?
I agree to an extent, Arya, but I also think there's a danger in focusing too much on cultivating Sattva. If we become attached to being harmonious or spiritual, that attachment itself can create a new form of imbalance. Krishna emphasizes transcending the gunas, not just rearranging them.
That's a great point, Rayan. And it highlights the deeper teaching in this chapter. While cultivating Sattva is beneficial, the ultimate goal is to transcend all three gunas. Krishna says that liberation comes when we rise above the influence of these qualities and identify with the self, the eternal consciousness beyond nature. It's about finding freedom, not perfection.
Exactly, Arya. And this teaching resonates with modern spiritual practices. For example, Sadhguru often talks about aligning with universal intelligence rather than getting caught up in the cycles of our tendencies. Similarly, Eckhart Tolle emphasizes the importance of living in the present moment, free from identification with thoughts or emotions.
Beautifully said, Rayan. Listeners, as you reflect on Krishna's teachings, consider this. How often do you feel influenced by restlessness or inertia, Tamas? And what steps can you take to bring more harmony into your life? As we continue, we'll explore the historical and cultural context of the gunas and how they've shaped spiritual thought across traditions.
That's a great reflection, Arya. Let's dive into the roots of the gunas and their universal relevance.
The concept of the gunas has deep roots in Indian philosophy, particularly in Samkhya, one of the oldest systems of thought in India. Rayan, can you elaborate on how the gunas are framed in Samkhya and how Krishna builds on this foundation in the Gita?
Certainly, Arya. In Samkhya philosophy, the gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas are seen as the fundamental building blocks of Prakriti, or nature. Everything in the material world, including our bodies and minds, is influenced by the interplay of these qualities. What Krishna does in the Gita is take this abstract framework and make it deeply personal. He explains how the gunas influence not just the world around us, but our thoughts, actions, and spiritual progress.
Exactly, Rayan. And what I find fascinating is how Krishna not only describes the gunas, but also offers practical guidance on transcending them. This shift from theoretical to experiential is one of the Gita's greatest contributions to Indian philosophy. But don't you think the idea of transcending the gunas can feel almost unattainable for someone immersed in daily responsibilities?
That's a fair point, Arya. Transcendence can seem lofty, but Krishna frames it as a process rather than a destination. By cultivating sattva and observing the play of the gunas without attachment, we gradually move closer to freedom. I'd argue that Krishna's approach makes this idea more accessible than it initially seems.
Fair enough, Rayan. And it's not just Indian traditions that explore these dynamics. In Chinese philosophy, the interplay of yin and yang reflects a similar understanding of balance and duality in nature. While not identical to the gunas, the idea of harmonizing opposing forces has a universal resonance. How do you see these parallels?
They're striking, Arya. Both the gunas and yin-yang emphasize that life is dynamic, constantly shifting between different states. The goal isn't to eliminate these forces, but to understand and balance them. This perspective teaches us to flow with life rather than resist it, much like Krishna's advice to observe the gunas without becoming entangled.
Exactly. And in Western psychology, we see echoes of the gunas in the study of personality traits and tendencies. For example, the balance between activity, rest, and harmony mirrors the influence of Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. It's a reminder that these ideas aren't just spiritual, they're deeply connected to human experience.
Absolutely, Arya. And indigenous traditions also highlight the importance of harmony in nature and within ourselves. Many indigenous cultures emphasize living in balance with the Earth's cycles, recognizing the dynamic forces that sustain life. This perspective aligns beautifully with Krishna's teaching that the gunas are part of nature's fabric and must be understood to navigate life effectively.
Listeners, as you reflect on this historical and cultural context, think about how the gunas might manifest in your own life. Do you notice patterns of restlessness, lethargy, or harmony? And how might these universal teachings inspire you to find greater balance and clarity?
That's a powerful reflection, Arya. And as we move forward, we'll explore how Krishna's teachings on the gunas can be applied in practical ways to create harmony and freedom in our daily lives.
Krishna's teachings on the gunas offer profound insights into the patterns that influence our thoughts, emotions, and actions. But how do we apply these teachings in the context of modern life, with its unique challenges and distractions. Rayan, let's start with how the gunas might manifest in everyday experiences. Can you share some examples?
Of course, Arya. Take Sattva, for instance. It might show up as a sense of peace when you're reading a good book, practicing mindfulness, or spending time in nature. Rajas, on the other hand, often appears as busyness, working long hours, juggling multiple tasks, or chasing goals. And Tamas might manifest as feeling unmotivated, procrastinating, or being stuck in a negative thought pattern.
Those are great examples, Rayan. And recognizing these patterns is the first step to creating balance. For instance, if we notice rajas dominating our lives, we might prioritize rest or mindfulness to bring in more sattva. But what about tamas? How can someone shift out of inertia without falling into the hyperactivity of rajas?
That's a delicate balance, Arya. To move out of tamas, small intentional actions can make a big difference. It could be as simple as taking a short walk, eating a nutritious meal, or setting a manageable goal for the day. The key is to focus on gradual progress rather than overwhelming change.
Exactly, Rayan. And Krishna emphasizes that cultivating sattva isn't just about feeling good. It's about creating a foundation for spiritual growth. When we bring harmony and clarity into our lives, we're better able to connect with the self, the knower that transcends the gunas. How might this understanding help someone dealing with stress or uncertainty?
It's transformative, Arya. Stress often comes from identifying too closely with the fluctuations of rajas or tamas. By recognizing these qualities as temporary and cultivating sattva, we can step back and respond to challenges with greater calm and perspective. This practice is at the heart of modern mindfulness, which teaches us to observe without attachment.
And for those seeking even greater freedom, Krishna invites us to transcend the gunas altogether. He teaches that by identifying with the self, the eternal consciousness, we can rise above the pull of nature's qualities and live with true liberation. But Rayan, don't you think this teaching can feel a bit abstract for someone navigating the demands of everyday life?
Absolutely, Arya. Transcendence can seem lofty, but it doesn't mean escaping the world. It's about living in the world without being entangled by it. Modern tools like meditation, gratitude practices, and self-reflection help us connect with this sense of detachment and presence, making Krishna's teachings more accessible.
Beautifully said, Rayan. Listeners, as you reflect on Krishna's teachings, think about which guna you notice most often in your life. What steps can you take to cultivate more harmony and balance? And how might understanding these patterns help you navigate life with greater freedom and peace?
It's a profound reflection, Arya.
Krishna's teachings on the gunas, the qualities of nature, are rooted in Indian philosophy, but their themes of balance and self-awareness resonate across spiritual traditions. Rayan, let's start with Chinese philosophy. How do you see the gunas relating to the concept of yin and yang?
The parallels are fascinating, Arya. Yin and yang represent the dual forces of nature, dark and light, rest and activity, similar to tamas and rajas. Just like Krishna emphasizes the interplay of the gunas, Chinese philosophy highlights that life is a dynamic balance between these opposing forces. Both teachings remind us that harmony is achieved not by eliminating these forces, but by understanding and balancing them.
Exactly, Rayan. And in Christianity, we see echoes of sattva in the virtues of humility, diligence, and spiritual growth. At the same time, the temptations of sloth and overindulgence reflect the influence of tamas and rajas. How do these teachings align with Krishna's message about cultivating harmony?
They align beautifully, Arya. Both Krishna and Christian teachings emphasize the importance of transcending earthly distractions and striving for spiritual alignment. Practices like prayer and reflection help individuals rise above the influence of worldly desires and connect with higher virtues, much like Krishna's call to cultivate sattva and transcend the gunas.
And in Buddhism, the middle way offers another lens to understand Krishna's teachings. The balance between effort and detachment mirrors the harmony of sattva, while extremes of indulgence or apathy reflect rajas and tamas. How does this comparison deepen our understanding of the gunas?
Both paths emphasize that balance is key. Arya. In Buddhism, observing the impermanence of thoughts and feelings helps practitioners detach from extremes, just as Krishna advises us to observe the gunas without becoming entangled. Both traditions highlight that freedom comes from awareness and non-attachment.
Beautifully said, Rayan. And indigenous traditions also offer profound insights. Many Native American practices emphasize harmony with nature's cycles, recognizing the dynamic forces of activity, rest, and renewal. This perspective resonates deeply with Krishna's teaching that the gunas are part of nature's fabric and must be understood to navigate life effectively.
It's a universal message, Arya. These traditions remind us that understanding and honoring the forces within and around us is essential for living in harmony. Krishna's teaching that we are the observer of the gunas invites us to connect with this deeper wisdom.
Listeners, as you reflect on these interfaith connections, consider how these teachings resonate with your own life. What practices help you balance the dynamic forces within you? And how do these moments of balance deepen your sense of peace and connection?
That's a powerful reflection, Arya. And as we move into the final segment, we'll share practical ways to apply Krishna's teachings on the gunas to cultivate mindfulness, balance, and freedom.
Before we close today's episode, let's take a moment to reflect on Krishna's profound teachings on the gunas. These qualities of nature, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, shape every aspect of our lives, from our thoughts and emotions to our actions and relationships. But Krishna reminds us that while we experience these qualities, we are not defined by them. By cultivating awareness, we can rise above their influence and connect with our eternal self. Now, I'd love to hear from you, our listeners. Here are a few questions to guide your reflections. 1. Which guna do you notice most often influencing your thoughts and actions? 2. What practices help you cultivate more harmony, Sattva, and reduce the influence of restlessness or inertia, Tamas? 3. How might understanding these qualities change the way you approach challenges or relationships?
These are wonderful questions, Arya. And remember, listeners, the goal isn't to judge yourself or strive for perfection. It's about observing with curiosity and compassion. Each of us experiences the gunas in different ways, and every moment of awareness is a step toward greater balance and freedom. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them with us in the comments or on social media using the hashtag #WithinAndWithoutPodcast.
And if today's discussion resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Within and Without, a path to mindful living. Subscribing helps you stay connected to future episodes and supports this growing community of mindful seekers. Together, we can continue exploring these timeless teachings and their relevance to modern life. Rayan, as we wrap up, what's one key takeaway you'd like our listeners to carry with them from Chapter 14?
For me, Arya, it's Krishna's teaching that understanding the gunas isn't about control, it's about freedom. By observing these qualities without attachment, we can navigate life's challenges with clarity and grace. It's a reminder that we're not bound by nature's fluctuations. We are the observer, capable of rising above them.
Beautifully said, Rayan. And listeners, as Krishna teaches us, the path to liberation begins with awareness. When we understand the forces that influence us, we can step into the role of the knower and live with greater balance and purpose. In our next episode, we'll explore Chapter 15, the Yoga of the Supreme Person, where Krishna reveals the nature of the divine and its relationship with the self and the world. It's a chapter that brings us closer to understanding the essence of existence, and we can't wait to share it with you. Until then, stay mindful, stay balanced, and remember, awareness is the first step to transcendence. Thank you for joining us on Within and Without, a path to mindful living, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.
Join us on Within and Without, a path to mindful living, as we explore the art of mindfulness together. Subscribe to our channel for more insights and practices to bring mindfulness into your everyday life.